Previously on Top Travel.
I'm really close to my family, and something that is quite difficult for me is that I never get to make time for the people who I care most about.
I could just feel the energy of this family. That it was like children that hadn't seen each other in years. At that moment in time, I realized that the family was getting on so well. It would almost be selfish of me to have her tag along with me for the rest of the journey.
This week on Top Travel.
Before heading off to Brisbane, I've decided to come to the Blue Mountains, which is only an hour and a half outside Sydney. And behind me are the world-famous Three Sisters. Now, these magical wonders didn't just appear. They took hundreds, if not millions of years to form. What happened is erosion took place and forming those crevices you see between them. But there's also a very romantic story attached to it. Legend has it that three sisters fell in love with three boys from an opposing tribe. That was illegal against the tribal law, and what happened is one of the elders turned them to stone to protect them. A war ensued, a battle, and the elder was killed, and they could never be turned back to humans. Now, if I was offered three sisters, I'd look after them a lot better than that. We spent the entire day on the road and then coming to this colonial English hotel in the middle of nowhere. This is such a fantastic location for a hotel. And the style is so colonial. What is the history of this place?
Well, actually, Sir Frederick Darley, he was the first Chief Justice. He bought this in 1888 to build a home for his family. The reason he came up to the mountains, he had a daughter, Lillian, who had tuberculosis, and the belief back then was that the mountain air was going to cure her of her tuberculosis. Unfortunately, he bought in 1888, and in 1889 she died, so she actually never got to stay in the home.
The story behind the hotel was so rich in history, and what I liked about it is that they'd actually gone to so much effort to preserve what was there originally and continue it throughout the hotel. I'm used to my modern hotels with quite a bit of masculinity in there, and here they give me this room and floral motifs everywhere, not only on the walls, on the floors, on the linen. I was just walking around thinking, I'm not a girl. The strange thing is, since Jeannie's left, I've been feeling kind of emotional. So I've been trying to make friends, look for friends, and I was lucky enough to bump into Sir Fred over here. And he's the local mascot of the hotel. Freddie, I miss good old Freddie. Such a good bear. I was feeling quite lonely that day. Jeannie was gone, and I got this assortment of cakes and sandwiches. It was high tea to the next level. So can I get you something? You want some scones? Oh, you love the fatty stuff just like I do. And sandwiches? Get some vitamins in there. And you said you wanted some of those too. And I couldn't finish all that food, and I had Freddie, the mascot of the hotel, next to me. And the guy was eating carbohydrates. Can you believe it? I was feeding him scone after scone after scone, and it was just going into that fat belly of his. I never feel like a fool. It was great to have some company. Here I am again, scared of heights, and it's freezing cold here in Katoomba, and I'm in a skyway that's actually been here since 1958. This one is brand new, and the spectacular thing about this is it has a transparent floor. So we're going over the Jameson Valley, which is 250 meters below us, and we're going to have a look at the Katoomba Falls. To the left of you, you have this waterfall that's 3 times higher than the Niagara Falls, just cascading down the rocks, and then to the right of you, you have miles and miles of eucalyptus trees. The reason they call it the Blue Mountains is because the sun shines onto all these eucalyptus trees, and it basically creates this lovely blue haze on the horizon. Now, Australia's quite famous for rare mobile experiences. This over here is something quite different. It's the steepest railway in the world. Excitement never stops. We're going to go at an angle of 52 degrees, and you're going to feel what that's like. Wow. And they used to use this railway back in the good old days, in the 1800s, to transport coal all the way from the bottom of the valley to the top of the escarpment. Quite an adrenaline rush, that. One of the guides actually told me that in the early days, they would have tour groups coming down in the original carts, and the people would just have to hang on. They'd be covered in all this black coal, and they would go down the steep railway. So I think I got there in better days. Indiana Jones music, very appropriate. Oh my goodness, we're going into a black hole, into a rock tunnel. Incredible. Ah!
up, darkness?
That was something else, I'll tell you. At least I know what 52 degrees feels like. The scenic tours with all the cable cars and tramways is the perfect way to get into the heart of the Jameson Valley. For a person like me who doesn't have a lot of time, I have a plane to catch to Brisbane. It's the perfect option. That was a nice short flight from Sydney all the way to Brisbane, and here I am in Queensland. Immediately, hot weather, which means I can take my thermal underwear off for once. Driving into the Gold Coast, you look at this big urban development which is right on the beach, and your eye is directed only to one building. The Q1 has to be one of the most phenomenal buildings in the world. It's the tallest residential building. It's 230 meters high, 80 levels. The lift shaft alone has got 1,000 kilometers of cable. That would mean it stretches all the way from here in the Gold Coast to Sydney. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of this building, there's two different lift shafts. One takes you from 1 to 41. The other one takes you from 41 to 78. It's ginormous. Up to 66 in a couple of seconds. I can start feeling it. It was about 10 seconds. It's got over 1,300 stairs to get from bottom to top. This has to be the perfect holiday apartment. And guess what? It's all mine, baby. I've got an open plan kitchen going onto a lounge. I've got one, I've got two, I've got 3 bedrooms. I've got panoramic views of the Gold Coast on either side of me. I'm in heaven. There's our surf club right there. One really has to take the time to appreciate the Q deck. It's on the 77th floor. It's got the most magnificent 360-degree panoramic views. The Gold Coast isn't only about the beautiful beaches. It has this fantastic hinterland with all these man-made canals. Really impressive. It's a beautiful sunny day on the Gold Coast. I've just walked out of my hotel and I'm here at the North Cliff Surf Club. If you look to the left and right of me, we've basically got 57 kilometers of beautiful beach. And when one thinks of Australia, one thinks of lifesavers and Ironmen, and I'm about to go and meet Dean and Crystal. They're basically 2 of Australia's top champions. My impression of Ironman is cycling, swimming, running. What's this all about?
Well, there are 2 different types, as you said, 2 different types of Ironman racing. That is true. That is cycling on the road and on the beach. Here, we've got surf skis, Malibu boards, swimming and running. So that's our Ironman in surf life saving. So you're in for a real treat today.
I can't wait. They gave me the first one. I don't even know what it was called, but it looked like a long canoe. When I think of endurance sports and fitness sports, I think they're very easy. It just depends on how fit your levels are. So me going out there and doing this, it was going to be a piece of cake. I mean, I cruised out with them. Everyone's laughing, everyone's giggling. I thought, okay, let me show my goods here. Let me show how good I am. Climb onto the board, fall straight off. Their hips alone and their abdominal area must be so strong, because no matter what you do in that water, the slightest little wave that comes, it just topples you. I was dismal. The moment a little ripple came towards me, it threw me off and I landed in the water.
In all honesty, I think for the first time you've ever been on it, I must commend you. I think you really got the basics of it. I think you could see, but you were challenging with the currents and the swell.
Yeah.
Was making it doubly difficult than it really should be. Ideally, for a first person time, a person on one of these surf skis, we take it into flat water.
When I went out there, it really humbled me. Never swallowed so much seawater in my life. Really disappointed. I think the key is I should stick to ball sports and not to board sports. So I'm leaving Service Paradise, I'm off to the Versace Hotel. And remember I was speaking about doing it my way? Well, I'm going on a Harley Davidson, and Jeannie is going to hate me for this because she loves bikes. Hi mate, Janez.
Brett, pleased to meet you.
Good, good, good. Are you ready to take me to the Versace?
To Versace, yeah, sure.
I don't know what it is about people and Harley drivers. They all look the same, they all act the same. They've got their tattoos and their leather waistcoats and their big boots. I mean, if I had to own a Harley, I would put my little shorts on, a little vest, and a different helmet and just throw them completely off. I was expecting to ride my own Harley. Instead, I was perched up on the back holding onto a Harley man. To be totally honest, I felt a bit like a girl on the back of a bike. This really is such a fantastic lifestyle. I mean, everywhere you look, people are on the boats, they're surfing, they're riding bikes. You're a lucky man.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. You know, look, we've just come out of winter and look at the weather. It's beautiful.
300 sunny days a year, they say.
Yep. basically.
So you go cruising on your bike most of those?
Whenever I can, I get out there and go.
Now that I've got all my street cred, I'm rough and tough. I think it's time to get to the Versace. The Versace Hotel, probably on the Gold Coast Strip, the premium hotel. The chic, rich people hang out there, they go there. It's got this grand entrance hall, and I rocked up on a Harley. The manager kind of looked at me, is this the guy that's staying in my hotel for the night? And I was like, cheers. I almost feel like I've been sitting on a horse for days. I don't think I'll ever buy a Harley, but something tells me that this is my type of hotel. What a hotel. If you like that style, that Italian over-the-top gold and colourful patterns and just completely over the top, then you'll love the Versace. The Palazzo Versace really screams Italian design. It is so grand. From the vaulted ceilings, they are gold leaf, to the floors, mosaic with marble. The most impressive feature is this antique chandelier at 750 kilograms. It actually used to belong to Gianni Versace, and it's almost a kaleidoscope of colors that reflect all the colors within the building. Welcome to my suite for the night. Come inside. This is actually the Imperial Suite, which is the top suite at the Versace Hotel. Goes for around 3,500 Australian dollars, which is almost on par with the US dollar. And the thing that really impresses me about this hotel is the attention to detail. And it carries on all the way from the entrance hall into this beautiful, beautiful bedroom and lounge. Every product, every piece of furniture, every object is Versace. It's Versace, Versace, Versace. You can't get enough of Versace. It took the hotel years to get the rights to the Versace name, so everything you see in this entire building has to be passed by the House of Versace. Jeannie's gonna kill me for that one. That room was something else. Here we have it, probably the most decadent high tea I've ever had, and it's moments like these where I actually miss Jeannie, because although she probably wouldn't eat anything, she'd be good company. That little chocolate cocktail, if I had to stay there longer, this little tummy would be in trouble, because it melted in your mouth. And then they had this assortment of the most wonderful things I've ever seen. Even if you can't afford to stay at the Versace, you have to come for high tea. Everything about this place is so unique. The ambience, the music, the people. I could honestly sit here for hours and just look at the rich and famous. It almost makes you feel special for a small moment in time. Speaking about attention to detail, take a look at this. Even the pastry has a Versace sign. I've had a lot of high teas. That one's the best I've ever had. Brilliant. Just an hour outside the Gold Coast is the fastest growing city in Australia, Brisbane, with a population of around 2 million people. It's big enough to be interesting, but small enough to be personal. Brisbane is actually the capital of Queensland. It's only the 3rd or 4th biggest city in Australia, and in 2009 it celebrated its declaration as a city, its 150-year anniversary. After my Gold Coast canoeing experiences, the last thing I wanted to do was land up in the Brisbane River. When you're at a river like this, you've got to do some mode of transport. So I was going to go kayaking, but kayaking's been done 1,000 times before. And I noticed something very different in the water. It's called a pumper bike. The funny thing is, it was developed by a South African called Mike Poozy in South Africa, and it's basically 2 hydrofoils that pump up and down. Looks very difficult, but seems to be quite good exercise. Dan the man, how you doing?
Janez, good to meet you. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah?
I'm a bit nervous.
Feel like having a go?
You know what the thing about me is I'm always up for a challenge.
Yeah.
But this almost looks too challenging.
Oh no, I'm sure you'll be right. You look pretty fit, and I'll help you. Okay, Janez. Now, what I want you to do, hook your right foot, your toes over the edge there.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on to the handles. Okay. You're going to lower it in slowly. I want you to push off your right foot. I'm going to give you a push from the back. That'll give you your forward momentum, and then you jump up and down, and you should be right.
He's like, all you got to do is I'm going to push you in, and then you just start pumping. Sounds so easy. It really sounds easy.
No good, mate. No, first one was better.
I think if I'd had a pump bike in my backyard and I took it out to the ocean, I'd be the fittest man in the world.
Yes, yes. Oh, well done, Janez. Excellent, mate.
You're in Australia. Gotta see a koala, gotta see a kangaroo. The Lone Koala Sanctuary is 82 years old and it's still the world's first and largest koala sanctuary. It's one of those places you can really interact with the koalas, get to know them and cuddle those little bears. Hello, what a cute little bear.
Well, actually, she's not a bear. She's a marsupial, so it means that she does have a pouch. She gives birth to very tiny joeys, which are the babies, and they crawl up into her pouch, and that's where they develop mostly, is in the pouch.
I think 99% of the world's population call them koala bears because they look like little cuddly, cute little bears. But trust me, I got reminded every time I said bear, they're like, it's not a bear, dude. So the only reason they call them bears is because they actually look like bears.
Yeah, just because they look like cute, cuddly teddy bears.
It's not a koala bear, it's a marsupial. And what is the lifespan of a koala?
In the wild, maybe up to about 10 years, but in captivity, usually between 12 and 15 is quite average.
Can I hold her?
You should be able to give her a little bit of a cuddle. We'll see how we go. Now, all you need to do is to put one hand on top of the other. You have to make a chair for her with your hands, just like that. Keep them nice and still, because as far as she's concerned, you're going to be her tree for the next little while.
This is such a rare experience.
There you go.
Ah, baby.
That's it, and I'll get you to turn this way, because she can see a tree behind her, and she's like, that's way cool to be over there. And we probably won't be able to do this in here.
Yeah, she didn't like me. So this is a kangaroo with a little joey.
Yes, an eastern grey kangaroo with quite a large joey inside her pouch.
How old is that joey?
It'd be getting up around 8 or 9 months now, so it's almost at the point where it's time to leave Mum's pouch permanently.
And can she jump around with the joey inside the pouch?
They're very, very strong, these guys. The hind legs are incredibly powerful, and she doesn't have any problems whatsoever.
It's amazing. If you come to Australia, you just have to check out a koala and a kangaroo. It's a moment I'll treasure for the rest of my life. One tip I can give myself and others is if you want to learn about a country, about its architecture, its art, go to the Modern Art Gallery. Now I'm outside GOMA, which is the Gallery of Modern Art, and it has the largest and best collection of modern art in Australia. My father's an artist, so when I can go to an art exhibition, I'm all for it. The GOMA Gallery in Brisbane houses one of the most treasured collections of Indigenous Australian art. Just by walking around here, you really get an insight into one of the oldest continued civilizations in the world. By being here, you get a real sense of history. I mean, those pieces were spectacular. I almost wanted to take them off the wall and say, I'll take those back home to Africa.
Hi, Janez. How are you enjoying the exhibition?
Fantastic. This building is amazing. So this is a collection of Indigenous Australian art?
Yeah, it's an exhibition that's called Floating Life, and it brings together 300 fibre art works that have been collected over the last 5 or 6 years. Fibre art's a really important part of Indigenous art practice and has been for a very long time.
Should we go look upstairs?
Fantastic.
And then you have this contemporary art gallery that exhibits and collects art pieces from all over the world. Not only Australian artists, so they aren't really biased in their collection. This really is a bizarre work. What is the piece all about?
It's called To Work Is To Play. It's a work by a young London-based artist named Nigel Cook, and he's an artist that's really interested in kind of a clash, if you like, between a really old-fashioned artisanal approach to making a painting. So he paints in a way that's almost like the Dutch masters. But then he's also interested in very kind of contemporary modes of image making.
This really is scary how real it looks.
It's an extraordinary work, isn't it?
Is this an Australian piece?
It's by an artist named Ron Muick, who was born in Australia but has been working in London since the 1980s.
Giant human. The first thing I thought of was Gulliver's Travels. She was a real giant. Her skin tone was so perfect that you couldn't notice the difference between her skin and my skin. The expression lines in her face, her eyes, her features. You just got to walk around and look at this person and think, what has this artist created? The Emporium Hotel. The kind of hotel I could stay in for the rest of my life. You can't fault that place. The style's perfect, it's boutique. The who's who of Brisbane hang out there. Cheers, Peter.
Cheers, Janez. Welcome to the Emporium Hotel.
Thank you very much. I was so impressed, particularly when we entered the grounds here. This whole area seems to have been redeveloped. What actually took place?
Indeed it has. This was once the site of a bus depot, believe it or not, and the hotel owners, the Anthony John Group, specialise in urban redevelopment and won the tender and have transformed an old bus depot full of tin and buses and bitumen and oil into this beautiful inner urban village.
Walking into the hotel, I got this eclectic mix of old and new, antique and modern.
The owners of the hotel, Anthony and Francine John, they love travelling the world, gathering their inspiration from visiting other independent boutique hotels and resorts, and it's from those world travels that they've come back here and decided we need to do something of a similar standard right here in Brisbane in Australia.
I'm an expert when it comes to hotels. After a season of Top Travel, you become an expert. And you've got a list of things that a hotel room requires, and you go through that list. So this room had all of the things that I require as a guest. But the thing I really love about this hotel is that they take thought to the next level. This is the romantic turn down. They put rose petals on your bed in the shape of a heart. It's candle lit. They offer you champagne. And 10 different kinds of pillows. And this is going to be my girlfriend for the next 2 days. I love you, baby. I always love the idea of a pool on the top of a building because you've got this beautiful viewpoint and you've got a sense of privacy. So I decided to go skipping. I was at the gym the other day and I met these two Australian guys. They were in their smart shoes and pants and they told me they were getting a quick pump before going out that night. So what I'm doing right now is exactly that. Because it's Porsche time and I need to look good. So I'm all pumped and ready to go. This hotel never ceases to amaze me. It offers you a Porsche and a picnic. The perfect way to spend my last 2 hours in Brisbane. This is so my style. Red's not my color, but I guess pickers can't be choosers. Porsche is a Porsche. It's iconic, beautiful car. Brisbane's the fastest growing city in Australia, and it's easy to see why. In 1859, the people actually petitioned the governor of New South Wales, and they got the independence. The first council was formed, the first municipality, and this became the capital of what is Queensland. Going in a Porsche and just having that free energy to drive wherever I want just completed the whole experience for me. This has to be the perfect way to spend my last morning in Brisbane. It's not always about rushing around and looking at all the tourist sites. Sometimes you just want to kick back, chill out, and watch time go by slowly. Let's have a look what the Emporium have packed for me today. Look at that. Looks like a typical safari picnic basket. But unfortunately, I have nobody. I'm all alone, depressed, lonely, no love. Just me and my pillows. I'm really going to be sad to leave Brisbane because it's been a fantastic experience. I really love the energy of this place. But we're going to get a little bit more adventurous next up. We're going to go to Noosa, which is up north, and then after that we're going to Fraser Island, which is the biggest sand island in the world.
Next week on Top Travel.
I love being pampered, but I've never had a pedicure.
You haven't?
No.
Lucky, we're doing a foot pamper, so a lot of men have these.
As long as you don't paint my toenails pink.
If you're sure, I could put some red on there if you like.
No. I'll have to drink a bit more if we're going to go that route.